Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the League of Inches podcast. Another edition of the breakdown, inch by inch. Basically, just us reviewing the weekend's action on the field, off the field, talking points, you name it. We cover it all in this episode. So, thank you for being on board. We're very keen. It's a big one tonight. Actually, we've got plenty to talk about. Plenty of teams did some things on the weekend. Whether that was good or bad, we will decide. But one of us is very over the moon at the moment. One of us is a little bit down in the dumps. I'm over the moon with obviously a big para victory today. Unfortunately, have lost. It appears probably two players to ACLs, which isn't great. Sort of a gut punch after a good victory, but that is what it is. That's the nature of the beast, I guess. But Brent, mate, come in because I know you were away on the weekend, but you also weren't able to really have the best weekend away because I know it was sort of expected, but the Knights, I think they started quite well. Just the class showed as the longer the game went, and they just weren't able to go with the Warriors.
Jolie, brother, how are you? Good to be here as always. Yeah, look, mate, I was away over the weekend, so I didn't watch as much of the footy as closely as I would have. But I certainly had that Knights game on the phone on KO in sort of nearby as I had the kids at the pool, and I wasn't on the toilet. I'll give you that tip. I did have the kids at the pool. But yeah, it looked like that first half we did it pretty tough, mate. That sort of cost us in the end, but ill discipline. We we're always going to be doing it tough. I think missing some of the class we did, and we didn't do ourselves any favour from what I could tell. And I think the class of that WAS team, that forward pack is just devastating. When they get a roll on, good luck. And Tanah Boyd showed exactly what he's been capable over the last few weeks playing off the back of it. So, yeah, very bitterly disappointing for me, mate. I tipped them. I was just hoping with a little bit of hope that maybe they'd put up a bit of a fight and produce a big result. But full credit to the Wars, they rolled through us and just too much class in the end, mate. So yeah, full credit to the boys, as they say.
Full credit to the boys indeed. Shout out as well to our major sponsor of the page and podcast, the Caxton Street Brewing Company. Guys, I think there's a couple of games coming up on this weekend, so make sure you head on down there, grab yourself a bite to eat, a few drinks, let them know that you're a fan of the podcast. They'll make sure that they look after you. And I should have an announcement probably for our Wednesday show in regards to Magic Round and some things that we should have locked in by then. So saying it on air, so I'll hold myself to it, and that way I can give you guys the good news in a couple of days. It looks like it's going to be some cracking things coming up for that weekend, which I'm sure already footy fans are pumped for. First question I want to ask you, Brent, getting straight into it. There's three undefeated teams at the moment. That is the New Zealand Warriors, the Penrith Panthers, and the Canterbury Bulldogs. I just want to quickly ask you to get things rolling. Which team do you think will continue their win streak the longest?
Yeah, mate, it's a good question and exciting times for the comps, particularly for fans of those teams. I think they've all displayed some good qualities, but I mean the easy answer is the riff, isn't it? It's hard to go past. I mean, you look at the quality of the opposition, and not, I guess, understating any of the other teams, particularly the Wars. They've also had some good opposition upcoming, but you look at the caliber of team that the Riff have come up against in these first three rounds, and they've been no mugs. They took on the defending premiers in round one, Sharkies, who are always thereabouts in round two, and then the Chooks. They're expected to do some good things this year. So they've absolutely put all three of those teams to the sword, without doubt. Chook started really well on the weekend. I caught a little bit of that one. I thought, oh, here we go. We've got a bit of a game on our hands. And then it was like after the first 10 minutes, it was see you later. We can kick up a gear and you can't stay with us. So, yeah, look, the Wars, I think out of those three, will be the next closest for me. They've looked really good. That forward pack, as I said, is mental. And the Doggies are just, I guess, that win on Friday or Thursday night was very gritty from them. But it's very hard to go past the Riff if they're going to stay fit and with that, the way they're playing at the moment, mate. What do you reckon?
Yeah, there's a few aspects to the Dogs. I mean, it's too hard to be overcritical of the Bulldogs because it was really the second game of the year and it was the first game in like 3 weeks, I think it was. So hard because it looked to me their attack was really clunky. It wasn't a performance where I sat back and thought they're a top four side. Like, it was a good one. They got the victory and you need those wins to build up. But I wasn't overly sold on them. The Warriors defensively is what's really impressing me with the Warriors. They are just relentless at the moment. It's just like anytime it gets a little bit tough, they just bite down on the mouth guard. Feels like this is what we get from the Warriors every second year or something. It's like they have like a year where they go really well, then they have sort of a lull year, and really it's an improvement for the club because last year's lull in a way was them riding the top four for a lot of the year until injury struck, and then they unfortunately finished in sixth and got bundled out the first week. But mate, I'm with you. I can't go past Penrith Panthers are just they're not on the run sheet either tonight, but just quickly, they are impressing me so much at the moment. Like I don't know when they'll lose. I honestly, I obviously know it will come. There'll be a loss shortly for him, no doubt about it. But the way they're playing, like on the weekend, and we'll discuss this shortly when we talk about the Roosters, but as soon as they went to they went into the grind early for about that 10-minute period. And then after like 10, 15, it's like they said to themselves, all right, we're in the grind now. We understand sort of like the field, how everything's going. Let's go up that next gear. Let's switch gears. And they just, as soon as they did that, the Roosters weren't able to go with them. As soon as they did that last week, the Sharks weren't able to go with them. As soon as they did that the first week against the Broncos, they couldn't go with them. Like, this is just such a freaking good football side at the moment. And I said in the preseason, and I'll give myself one pat on the back for once because I got something right. I just said, like, looking at him, the fact that there was no changes to him this year, and majority of their squad looked pretty feared and well rested from a big couple of years, really. I just thought they were going to do this. I thought they were going to start on fire. The hard draw didn't worry me whatsoever. I know there was a lot of people out there for either super coach reasons or just general competition wise were worried about the hard start for him. I said it would actually make them better. They'll look at that in the preseason and go, we've got 4 or 5 of the top 6 sides of last year in the first 5 weeks or so. We're just going to go out and make a statement. There'll be people writing us off saying we're done and we're over, we're fatigued. They've done exactly that, mate. Like, they're just so impressive at the moment, and I love watching them. I love sitting down at the moment watching them because we get the silky skills that we get from Brian Toe. We get the world-class game management we get from Nathan Cleary. We get Yo doing his thing in reduced minute role, which I think suit him perfectly. And then you got likes of like Leota and stuff who are just doing what they do each and every week so consistently. So they're just such a well-rounded football side at the moment, Brett. I've got to go all in on the Penrith Panthers. But there was one thing I want to start with here. So the game on the weekend against the Roosters, I noticed and I wrote it down and I put a post out about it. It had plenty of people talking and it felt like more were with than against. But James Tedesco, how in the world he escaped a sin bin for that Edwards tackle after Edwards made a break is absolutely beyond me. I don't know where we're at the moment as a game because there was 2 clear reasons why he should have was sin bin from the field. Firstly, the dangerous tackle, which got Edwards into a reason where he was put onto his head, which in my for the rules I understand, that's a sin bin every day of the week. Secondly, and this was the more obvious one, was he deliberately slowed down to play the ball, which is a professional foul in that circumstance because Penrith just scoop it up and away they go. How the referee has clearly just looked up and gone, oh shit, it's James Tedesco here. I'm just going to rule a penalty and play on. I don't want to ruin this game or something like that. I think it's just disgusting. Like, are we being fed income as a game, Brent? Because I think that was one of the most obvious sin bins I've ever seen watching rugby league for, 34 years now. And we're sitting here where he wasn't sin bin.
Yeah, mate. And look, to be honest, it does feel like a lot of the time with some of these things that it is the player involved that makes a big... If that had been some young... fullback that had played less than 50 games, I'm sure he would have went. And I guess it sucks a bit when you see that sort of thing and it's blatant. And, as I said, for any other team or most fullbacks, they'd probably go. But it does beg the question, was it just because it was Teddy, they give him a bit of the rub of the green, if you will? And I think it just speaks volumes to a range of things we see over the weekend, similar. And we've seen all season, and we could harp on about it again, probably all season. And the inconsistency, from one game to another, from one ref to another. Some of the refereeing, and mentioned it over the weekend, was disgraceful. Nothing short of disgraceful. These blokes should be having to go to a tribunal and facing suspensions. Like, for some of the absolute howlers, like dead set, put them on show, put them on trial. They're bringing the game into disrepute with how bad some of these calls are. It's no worse than Todd Carney doing a bubbler. So, yeah, look, they might have gone a little bit too far on that. But like honestly, like they're meant to be like high-paid professionals as well. They train, they look at film. They're meant to. Yeah, I don't see it, mate. They've got to make some big calls in split seconds and on the run, and I get it, but. The game deserves better. The fans deserve better, and even the players, the coaches. We've said it before. It's just, and then we see for instance, that Dogs and Raiders game. I watched a bit of that one. The whistle disappeared in the second half. It got tight, and from what was going from 6 again, just all of a sudden that put it away because no one wants to make a hard call at a time that might turn it. So, yeah, frustrating, buddy. But what do? We just deal with it. We're suckers for punishment, us leagueies, aren't we?
We are, but it's so frustrating that the fact that the NRL come out almost every week and just back them up. It's just like they blindly back them up. And I just think, where's the accountability? Like we're in here, coaches are on the borderline of being sacked already after round 3, yet some of these things that are happening, like who knows, if this game ended up differently and the Roosters end up winning in a close one, I would have been furious on you. And I'm not even a Penrith supporter. I would have been going, that was a huge game changer. That should have been a period where Nathan Cleary got to dictate things to a 12-man Roosters side, which would have probably blown the game wide open from an early stage. So it's just, I don't get how something that can be so obvious to everyone sitting at home, or I shouldn't say everyone, about 90% of people sitting at home going off the votes and that I compile, but it just, I don't get it. It's just so frustrating. And then going on to the game itself, from the Sydney Roosters' point of view, Brendan, they're the talking point for this game. It's the fact that we all know that crazy stat that's going on at the moment. I forget what the numbers are. I think it's like something like 24 from 25 against heavyweights in recent years and the like. But they just cannot win these games. Whenever it's against one of these high-class teams that let's put him into the contenders bracket, which the Roosters should be in. That they should be considered this year as contenders, absolutely. As soon as we spoke about it earlier, as soon as Penrith went to that next level, which I don't even think it's Penrith's best level yet. I think they're a couple of gears still away from what they can really produce. I think they're only starting to warm up in this competition. The Roosters had nothing after the second gear was put into to play. I know it's early, but we've now seen the Roosters have, 3 games, and 2 of those games have not been great at all. And 2 of those games they've demanded one of their playmakers step up and get shit done, and they haven't been able to do so. The only time I've seen it was last week where DCE, to end the game and ice it, actually was the one that put his hand up. But where's all this happening for the other games? Because this is a pattern now that I'm sure Roosters fans are really sick of. They can't win these big games.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And I was guilty of it on paper. I thought this squad will push this year. They have to. They can't not. You know what I mean? And what happened on Friday nights, pretty much, I don't know how that happens with the squad that they have on paper. Yes, they have it on paper, but that should never happen. A team of that caliber, the players that they have, supposed to be, as I said, a bit of a premiership contender this year, expected to do well, to be just completely blown off the park and have no answers was extremely eye-opening. Full credit to the Panthers. They look fit as anything, and obviously they got a bit more time to rest last year than they usually would, off the back of a prelim loss instead of a grand final, a week extra. But
big week.
yeah, but I guess they've had some time to reflect and realise they don't like that feeling. And I even, just going a bit off topic of the Chooks here, Cleary was mentioned in an interview that was the first time they thought they weren't as fit as the other team at the back end. But as I said, they're a well-oiled machinery to turn up and play this year, and the Chooks, they certainly aren't. They haven't been convincing, and they've got a lot to turn around. And to be honest, Trent Robinson should be under heaps of pressure, if you ask me. Like, I think he gets away with it a fair bit because he has had some good success with them, but ultimately, they're in the business of winning comps, and they haven't done that for a while now. Not since, Cronk was there, so...
Let's quickly stay on that point because I think it's a really valid point there. And it seems like noise in the rugby league universe anyway is starting to get a little bit louder onto this, that they're starting to say, you know what, he hasn't really achieved much at all. And people continue to sit back and talk about, obviously, Penrith Panthers and how good they've been over time, how good that Storm team was that won the comp that year that they won it, then the Broncos last year. But go throughout that whole period of time, the Roosters didn't have like a team that you look on paper and you go, oh, they'll struggle to make the 8. Every freaking year in that whole period, they had a team that if they all played to their potential, which seems to be the real issue at play at the moment, should have been able to challenge and seriously challenge those teams when they were winning the comps. And they were basically nowhere to be seen for most of those years. And it feels like because it's trend and people, when was that comp they won last? 2020, wasn't it? So we're talking 6 years ago now to this year. So that's a long time in rugby league. Like, how much grace period does he get at the moment? It just seems to be a long time. I don't know, Brent, but I'm kind of with you. I'm feeling like if they can't I don't even think finals would be a pass mark for them this year. They need to be a top 4 football side this year, and that includes winning one or two of these games during the year against these big 3 or 4 football clubs.
Mate, and just a slight correction, it was 2018-19 they went back-to-back off the back of signing Cronk, so it's been an extra year. You're giving them an extra bit of credit there. And they don't have any excuses, Jolly. Like, they've just signed Reece Robson, who, to be fair, I thought looked quite good on the weekend. I thought
he did.
He was actually a bit of a bright spark for them. They've picked up DCE, which, yes, he's obviously at that end of his career, but he's still a quality class player. Like, at the end of the day, a rep-level player in the past and had been for a long time. So no excuses. You've got Tedesco at the back, Sammy Walker, one of the best halves in the comp.
And they signed DCE, they've literally said they've signed him to win them a competition, which early signs are suggesting that's not going to happen. And all they've done now is push back Savala's role, which, let's be fair, at the back end of last year, he was looking like the best playmaker that they've got. And they also they lost Sandon Smith on the flow-on effect. So,
which I think is madness. I would have Savala and Sandon there over DC. Like, if I had to keep both of those young blokes there and not sign DC, I'd be doing that in a heartbeat. Yeah. Sandon, I think, was hard done by there, and obviously don't know what happened. But I'm cheering as a Newey fan that we picked him up as well. I think he's class. But yeah, mate, they don't have any excuses. Yeah, you want to say they got a new half and a new hooker, like a new DCE, a new 6, and it will take a little bit of time. And I'm sure they'll come good, but yeah, they've been embarrassed on the weekend, and they're Trent Robinson's got a lot to answer for as well. And look, there's every chance they turn around and in 8 weeks' time they get humming again and start putting some teams to the sword. But you're right, in those big games, we've now seen it countless occasions. They can't, when you put the torch on them, they don't really respond well. So yeah, very interested to see how they go again when they come up against some of these more heavyweight sides this year. But they've got a lot of stuff to sort out. 100%, Jolie.
They've got a number of things to sort out, and I'm just quickly looking at their run over the next couple of weeks. So Manly next week, so the return of DCE at Brookie. Then they've got then they've got a bye. Then the Sharkies and the Newcastle Knights. So sorry to block your ears a bit, Brent, but you would expect if they're fair income, they should go on a little bit of a run now. They've got a couple of games that if they want to be at this level, like with the Penrith Panthers and the Melbourne Storm, they are winning all 3 of those games plus the bye and having a period there where they're getting 8 points from 8, basically. So, which, who knows? If it was a Newcastle Knights team that had the big guns there, I probably would be talking a little bit differently. But unfortunately, at the moment, obviously, with the injuries. Let's shuffle over to the Brisbane Broncos. So a huge win for them on the weekend. It was a fantastic game. They had every right to throw in the towel at halftime, I thought, and the Melbourne Storm, they were just warming up. I think the Melbourne Storm fell asleep in the second half. I was really disappointed by their second half. I thought with the grand final rematch, the words that Stefano came out and spoke before the game and tried to fire up things once again, I felt a bit uneasy with those comments. I thought, I love the theatre of it, but if I was Bellingham, I'd be going to him, mate, we lost the grand final last year. We've lost the last 2. And we've got nothing to say anything for. Just chill. Let's go and just beat them to this weekend, and then maybe say something afterwards. But you didn't win the comp. I just felt that was a bit weird, bit funny. But I do love the theatre. I want players to do a lot more of it. Just the timing around it seemed a bit meh. How you going? But I'll raise this in a post over the weekend. It got a lot of people talking, and people still are. There's comments all the time. Are the Brisbane Broncos a better football side with or without Adam Reynolds? That's the big question here, because if I'm being honest here, and I sort of said this already in the post, I think the Brisbane Broncos are better without Adam Reynolds. But the question mark here is the fact that where do we go and how do the Brisbane Broncos deal with this moving forward, Brent? Are you pulling the bandit off straight away? Are you trying to just get through this year, obviously with Adam Reynolds announcing his retirement at the end of the year? Where are you at?
Yeah, it's a good one, and just quickly on that Bronx performance, mate. Full credit to them. Like I thought their defense was pretty good in that first half. Just quickly, and that try right on half time, I think it was a Joey Chan. I thought, oh, that could be the
Yes.
that could be the straw in the camel's back. But full credit to them, just quickly on that. They defended pretty well and were under the pump in that first half. So that was a gritty win and could be something that really launch pads their season moving forward. So, full credit to the Bronx. But yeah, I guess the A-Ray piece, mate, it's interesting, isn't it? He's obviously a quality half, super experienced, and someone that you would like to lead your team around the park. The issue is it seems to be any time they give the Reece Walsh a bit more ball, he can orchestrate anything. As good as he is with the ball running, that kid's got a freakish passing game. He's got a boot on him as well. From what I can tell, he has some pretty good rugby league IQ when it comes to particularly attack. Defense he's got a bit to work on, but he's a really switched on player. He kicks 40-20s and, he finds out fullbacks a lot of the time. So, I think Benny Hunt is a lot better at when to give him the ball and when not to. And I even think there was a couple of times, I think, was it Staggs went through, he went short to Staggs and Walsh was out the back and he threw his hands up and gave him a bit of a filthy look. Like, I don't think Walsh likes Hunt playing at 7 maybe as much in some ways, but I think the results speak for themselves, don't they? They definitely don't need Adam Reynolds as far as I'm concerned, and he's a class goal kicker, and he's as I said, his kicking game's probably second to none in the comp, but. With Benny Hunt there, he could do the same role, and if it means Walsh is more involved, I'd be going down that route. Yeah, it's a tricky one. I think they just sort of put up with it for the rest of the year. Unfortunately, A-Ray's bloody that injury prone. It's not funny. The poor bloke could do a hemi bloody at any point, right, and just be gone for a month or whatever. And I guess they have that luxury there of having Benny Hunt there and Moser can then roll into 9 or whatever they want to do. But yeah, I think sooner rather than later it'll be a completely new look at 7. Whether Benny Hunt even continues, did he sign past this year? Like, is he still just for the rest of the year?
Still working it out, I believe.
Yeah, obviously Pezzett will be there next year at this stage, so there's obviously going to be a pretty significant change there soon. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I guess they just have a bit of that luxury at the moment as well. And again, writing on the wall, they were not looking great going into that game against the Storm, who were red hot, and they pulled it off. They pulled it out of the bag. So at the end of the day, I think that speaks for itself as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. My thing is, and I know it's pretty harsh, but I they're in the look. The NRL is about winning football games, and all I can see at the moment, and going back into last year as well, the Brisbane Broncos have been at their absolute best when Adam Reynolds wasn't on the field. That's just plain and simple. They don't win the competition if it's not for Adam Reynolds going off the field in the grand final, in my opinion, because it elevated Reece Walsh. People say, they wouldn't have got to the grand final because Adam Reynolds kicked the sideline conversion. Who's to say that Reece Walsh, who was on fire, everything was coming off for him, wouldn't have kicked that, and he wouldn't have been actually playing and kicking that goal if it wasn't for Reece Walsh and what he did in that game. So I just think that the argument against Adam Reynolds and maybe doing that call at the moment is a little bit screwed because we've seen last year that the proof's in the pudding. I love what Hunt does with the forward pack, how organising he is and what he gets done. He doesn't overdo anything at all. It just seems like that moment that Reece Walsh says, I want the ball, it is going to him more often than not. Like you said, there's still that little teething period, but I think that also has to do with the fact that the Broncos are just out of form at the moment. They're probably still getting used to things. And the elephant in the room, Ezra Mann, hasn't been great at all this year. He's come back in shocking form, which hasn't helped things too well. But from what I can see, and I know it's harsh, I'm almost pulling him in to have a chat this week, just to go, you know what, we are a better football team. And the hard thing is, if Hunt goes down, they've got no Billy Walters either. That's all of a sudden got themselves very thin. So it's an interesting way how they try and counter this moving forward. But if I'm going to be honest with you, I just wouldn't be rushing Reynolds back at all anytime soon. I would do almost what they did last year. It felt like towards the finals where they were doing so well, they sort of left him off and they just sort of kept going with what Billy Walters and co were doing. I'm sort of in that camp at the moment. I'm sort of just leaving it as it is and just letting it go. And then if something pops up in the next month or so, yeah, Reynolds get back in there, but it's no rush to get him in.
I agree, mate, and it's no knock on Reynolds. I think it's just that the structure and that spine, right? Like, A-Ray's going to go down as one of the great halves, probably one of the most underrated halves too, to be fair. And it was great to see him in another comp, albeit with Brisbane. But yeah, absolutely. Everything you said was spot on. I think they are still going to be a little bit spoilt for choice. And I think they even picked up Duffy for this year, which is obviously no established first grade or whatever. But, they do have some options there. But like I said, with Hunty in the wings, obviously can roll into that 7 pretty easily. They have the luxury of being able to sit A-Ray for as long as they need. I guess it'll just be a bit of a thing of cohesion if they're always chopping and changing these halves combinations. But I just think Madge will be too tight with A-Ray to have that hard conversation at this point, knowing it's his last hurrah.
Yeah, it's absolutely spot on. Unfortunately, talking about halves, I think the form player of the competition at the moment is Tanah Boyd. He has been unreal this first 3 weeks of footy, and I have him right at the peak of the power, alongside probably his teammate Jackson Ford. I think both have been unreal to start the year. Metcalf's rumoured to be back in a couple of weeks, mate. This is going to be posing a really tough question, but I think if I was Coach Webster, I wouldn't be overthinking this at all. I would simply, and I've said this, I've had a few chats with a few of the Kiwi fans and that over the last day or two, and they've asked me sort of how I would do things and stuff. I said it's pretty simple. Like, the way I see it, and I think I've seen this so much in our game over the years, where coaches almost give too much respect for that play that's out and don't respect the play that's in enough, where Tanah Boyd's in rare form. And there's not many times where players are in this rare form that you take him out of the team. It just seems criminal, to be honest with you. So I'm leaving him there at the 7. I'm saying this is absolutely working. I'm leaving you there, which takes me then over to Metcalf and his strengths. I know to come back, it probably won't be quite there with his running game and things like that. But when he's fully fit and gets that confidence, where, to be fair, the medical staff of the Warriors doing a remarkable job, because Barnett came back on the weekend, was one of the Warriors' best as well. I thought he would change the game when he got on. So they're doing some good things with recovery. So maybe Metcalf does come back and he's almost like his usual self, which would be incredible. I'm looking at going, you know what, Metcalf's a fantastic runner of the football. Let's chuck the 6 on his back. Let's let him play a little bit of football and without that organisational period, because Boyd's just in tremendous form. And then I'll probably be putting CHT back to the bench, which Healy, I know that's probably harsh on him because he's been great anytime he gets a chance as well. And it's very likely that Wade Egan comes off for those HIAs or injuries that he unfortunately consistently gets. That's how I would structure it. What about you, Brent?
No, I totally agree, mate. And just firstly, Boyd has always had these raps on him. I remember when he first came through, broke through to sort of NRL level, that was like him and Fifi came through the system together, and they were supposed to be the next best thing since sliced bread. And he's been dominant in cup for a number of years. Like, he has been really good in cup, but it just seemed to be every time he had his crack at NRL, it never really quite worked out. So, yeah, it's great to see him actually coming to fruition. Some of that, that talk about him is we're starting to see it now. It's obviously he's got the luxury to play off an absolute weapon of a forward pack, but he looks awesome. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Lukey Met, I'm pretty sure he came through playing a bit of fullback and 6 anyway. Don't quote me on it. So he's more of that style of player anyway. And I think if he's happy to just look, Tanah Boyd's humming, let him do it. Let him take him around the park. You have a little bit less pressure, probably less eyes on you as well while you get back up to your fitness. And I think that would work. I think that 7-6 combo of Boyd Metcalf would be cracker. And to be honest, I mean, it might be a bit harsh, and I don't know, maybe call me out on it if I'm wrong, Lars. I've never seen the appeal that these coaches have seemed to see in CHT over the years, if I'm honest. And to be fair, I think he's a great utility off the bench for him. And they could still have Healy there on a 6-man bench. I think CHT, he could play centre, halves if you need him to. You could chuck him in a number of roles. I think he'd be great off the bench. So I think they can make that work. So, yeah, I totally agree, mate. I think it's a great headache for him. They're absolutely humming, so you can't pull Boyd out. Definitely not to replace him with a guy that's had numerous bad leg injuries now, and it's going to take a bit to come good from an ACL. You'd think, as I said, Barney was unreal, but how about the Wars? It's great to see, and I just hope they can keep ticking. They got some harder games coming up as well, but keen to just see how they keep coming on, because it's when the Wars are going good for footy, it's good for footy.
Yeah, credit to the fans as well. Even on the weekend, look at that Wars movement's in full effect at the moment. Look like they had a whole sort of bay going, and they're just loud and dancing and singing. It was fantastic to see, and that's at a very Novocastrian noisy crowd. So to be welcomed in there, not welcome, but to be noisy and be heard, that says a lot about what's happening at the moment. That's fantastic. I can't wait I'm hoping they continue this on because they're the big hit at Magic Round every year that I've been to. They have been the loudest for sure. That game when the Warriors are on, it's must see viewing, guys. So I always recommend make sure you're in the stadium if you're on that day that the Warriors are playing because you need to be able to hear that. I was going to quickly shout out to Trey Mooney in this game because talking about Tanah Boyd, I know that obviously he got sin bin. He did an effort play which didn't quite come off, unfortunately, and paid the ultimate price, which I get. It needed to happen, and we don't want to see that happen in the game at all. But I just wanted to say on a sportsmanship front, and it's probably not what we're too big on around here, but it was great to see him apologise literally about friggin' 15 times, it felt like, on the field. He just kept coming up to him. There was a fight happening, and then he's just like trying to get away from that to go over to apologise to him. I just thought it was a really nice touch because it shows you, and I think Reynolds mentioned it in his presser this afternoon as well, 99% of this shit that happens in our game, it's not players are meaning to do it. It's just everything's an accident. I think some people forget that a lot. And it was just good to see that, again, it was an accident. It was an effort play that just didn't quite... He missed it by like 10 centimetres, if that. And it could have been completely different. He would have just been applauded for a great effort play probably in the video session this week. But he's just now probably going to face a week off. And yeah, I just wanted to quickly shout out to him, Brent, because I thought it was really good to see.
Yeah, I must admit at the time I was a bit filthy because I don't like the look of it at the point of the game. Like, he's a guy who I love the signing. Like, he's probably one of the favourite night signings we've had over the years, to be honest. The mongrel that he brings and what he brings in the middle for us is awesome. I just didn't like at the point of the game that it happened. He dropped the shoulder a bit, and I guess the other point of it is how often do we see players do this shit where they know it's not, or it's let's wrap the arm or tackle him. Don't like hit him and take the leg out. Like, at least hit him properly. If you're going to hit him that close, hit him. But yeah, I mean, credit to him. I think he's one of those blokes. He's going to wear his heart on his sleeve. He would have been frustrated out there. They got absolutely pumped, and those forwards would have, he wasn't really getting too much help out there either. So, bit of frustration, heart on his sleeve, and good to see. He's obviously got a good heart on him to make sure he's okay. Those things can go pretty badly wrong too. We've seen broken legs and stuff like that. So, hopefully he can just control it a little bit more in terms of what he's actually doing. But love the aggression, and like you said, good to see that he has still got some. He's not just going to storm off and just say go stuff yourself sort of thing. But yeah, he had his hand full with a few wires coming at him after that as well. So I don't know if I'd be trying to go him. Even probably want 3 or 4 blokes with me. But yeah,
I felt for him as well because, like you sort of mentioned there, he's up against probably 3 of the 4 middles of the competition at the moment in Clark, Fisher Harris, and Ford. And then obviously you had Barnett come back and just 100%. Remind everyone while he's a state of origin middle and while clubs were chasing him still even at his age. So I do feel for him a little bit, and there was clear frustration there. It was good to see there was no real malice behind it, and he completely apologised afterwards. Talking about Metcalf, his former club, the Cronulla Sharks, just going to list them right now, Brent, as absolute pretenders for 2026 once again. It's very early, I know it, but I've seen enough already this year to suggest, again, they're not going to be able to get it done when the time is needed. I've got no doubt they'll probably find a way to claw into this 8, even though there's a lot of really good football teams out there at the moment who I think on their day, the Sharks will probably struggle to beat a lot of these teams at the moment. I just can't see anything. I was so disappointed with this performance, especially after last week where they got embarrassed by the Penrith Panthers. They spoke up during the week and said how big that game was for them and how up for that game that they were. If that was them up, they may as well just put the white flag up now for the rest of the year because that's not good signs for the club at all. I know it's very early. I know there could be different training schedules and stuff like that, but then to back that performance up with what they did against the Dolphins, who, let's call a spade, haven't been good to start the year. They were in poor themselves, so they should have known coming into this. The Dolphins were going to bring their best. They were coming in to make a statement here, which they've ended up doing, and it just felt like similar to last week, Brent. As soon as the Dolphins went to that slight extra little gear and just went, you know what, Sharks, we're not going to be pushovers for you today, which it looked like the Sharks wanted an easy victory. They just couldn't do anything, the Cronulla Sharks. You could tell so early in this game, the Sharks weren't there to play football. I don't know what they were doing there, but they're not there to play football. And that's just, for a team now that's been building this roster now and had stability in this roster for a good, 3 to 4 years now, is just absolutely diabolical in my eyes because the coach has shown faith into a lot of these guys where I think it's got to the point where they've reached the peak of this squad. I think they're now on the downward spiral. What do you think?
Mate, it's fair to call it out. Like, these boys have all, as you said, been together for a while now. They're knocking on the door. They've been in those big games. Yeah, there's question marks about producing in those big games, but they all know their role. They all know what they need to do to get it done. They've just lacked that venom or killer instinct or, that knockout punch, if you will. So, it was going to be whether they could try and develop something like that this year somehow, even though the roster they probably didn't change too much. I guess, they got dominated in the forwards, and the Finns haven't been anything special, let's be honest. Like, that was a bit of an unexpected result, to be fair. So I think I was looking at the meters gained, and the top forward for the Sharks was AFB, less than 100 meters in 60 minutes, less than 10 hit-ups. Like, that's just not good enough. That forward pack, as I said, they've all been together for a while. They should all know what the role is. And to be fair, I thought Nico did as good as he could off the back of it, to be honest. But that should never have happened as well. Coming at home, coming off the back of a bit of an embarrassing loss, that's a huge red flag for the Sharkies now. Again, they'll probably still end up clawing there in the end. They've just got that, I guess, quality or that experience and know-how to probably do enough to make the finals, and then you'll see what they can do. But I don't give them any chance of even going close to winning a comp unless they're top four and absolutely humming. And even then, they've got big question marks on them in the big stages. So, yeah, I don't know what they do. We've spoken about them now, I think, this is probably the second time in the last month or so, in terms of question marks about their premiership credentials, and it hasn't gotten better. In fact, it's probably gotten worse. As I said, that Finns pack, they've been going great, but they should be doing a lot better than what they did on the weekend. Particularly, as I said, big signings like AFB, who the bloke should be running for 150, 200 metres at least every week, right? You look at some of the other top echelon forward props in the game that are on big money, your Colomatungis, your Hart. There's no questions about what these boys are doing every week. And AFB, I'll be honest, should be the same. And he's the leader that they need to give them the mongrel, to enforce some of that dominance that they need in the middle to let the halves and the rest of them play off the back. So I reckon that's someone I'd call out. He needs to pull his finger out. I don't know. He's obviously a bit of a diva as well. He taking his toys and throwing them out the cot at Manly. He did it at the Wars, and I don't know, is he starting to stink it up there at the Sharks again? I don't know, mate, but I think it's fair criticism, and I'd love to hear what some Sharkies fans are thinking.
Oh, absolutely. Get in the comments, guys, and let us know, please. The other thing I find pretty pathetic at the moment with that club, and I know that he's immune to criticism because he's considered just one of the good guys in the game. Firstly, I'll call a bit of bullshit on that because I've noticed a lot in the last 6 or so months. He's niggle on the field. He's getting very niggly, old Nico Hynes. He doesn't like whenever someone sort of gives it to him or gets a good hit on him or something, he doesn't like it. There's a lot in his game I'm noticing. I know if it's frustration, if it's outside noise, I'm not too sure, but I don't like the fact that I was full of praise for the halves combination after round one. Then I'll go back and look at it and look at the next 2 weeks that we've been able to watch. Round one was them downhill the whole game. They were up against a Titans team that didn't even get off the bus. They didn't even get off the plane. They were still sitting in on their Qantas jumbo jet in probably first class or something, sipping some champagne going, we don't want to start the season yet, which they clearly didn't. But then you will look at round two. Then you look at round three. 2 games where they didn't have anything go their own way and they weren't able to go downhill. And their halves just gone completely. They've disappeared. There's no... I'm not asking him to be Nathan Cleary. I'm not asking him to be an Adam Reynolds when he's fit who can kick away. I'm not asking him to be a Mitchell Moses. But when someone like Nico Hynes is on $1 million a year, you've got to be doing a lot more than just disappearing in games whenever things aren't going your way. Like, Braden Trindle gets a slight exemption from this because he's not on the big bucks to an extent. But together as a halves pairing, you've got to have game plans B, C, D, and E. And it feels like they've only ever got game plan A. And if that, soon as that doesn't go ahead or it looks like it's getting too tough, they both just go, not here, don't want to bar of it, don't want to be the organizer here. And it's shut up shop.
Yeah, it's again another interesting question to put to people as far as Nico. Like you said, he's on the big money, and with that big money comes big responsibility. And when the team's not performing, you're the one that's going to get criticised as the 7 with the man on your back, or with the 7 on your back. Yeah, I guess they can be guilty of they just go into that shell, don't they? They don't seem to try anything new, like kick early and get out your own end and try and put some pressure on them defensively. Or I don't tend to notice a lot of that in terms of like they've got their game plan and then it's hard for them to really get off that. And someone of Nico's caliber should be out there on the field able to identify when they're sort of getting they're losing momentum or they're not winning the ruck or whatever it is, and try and somehow do something about it. It's hard to place the blame all on one bloke, obviously. And to be honest, I thought guys like Stone Street and Katoa have done pretty good in terms of their back three. We obviously have got question marks over Will Kennedy, and as much as there's questions about the Dogs winning a comp with Tracy at one, as supposedly, I don't think the Sharks are just as bad, obviously, with Kennedy there. So. Yeah, I think it all comes off the back of the forward zone. He should be the one barking at him and telling them to get on the front foot. You know what I mean? Like getting up them, that's your job. You steer those boys around. You make sure they get to where they need to get you to, so you can play off the back of it. And yeah, I think you're right. I think there's a bit of frustration coming through, and maybe there's some other stuff going on at Cronulla after that performance on the weekend. I don't know. As I said, there's a bit of smell in the change rooms or something. I don't know what's going on, but it seems like maybe something is brewing. We don't want to start rumours here, of course, Jolly, but.
I'll tell you one rumour
Yeah.
that we've seen in clubs time and time again. When you get to this stage where you've been together for a few years now, you feel like the whole aim at the start of this was people stayed around and probably took pay cuts because the big ultimate goal was a premiership. You get until about 3 or 4 years into this and it's just not quite working. Now there's another period where they've got a whole chunk of their squad off contract and about to come out. There's going to be 100% some times where talk in the media, there'll be a few of these blokes will leave. And it'll be about how this affects the morale of the group because they've all gotten used to each other. It's basically like that they're a piece of furniture now at the stadium and in the dressing rooms. So that can often have a bit of an effect on a playing group. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. There's been times in the past where we've seen the really good coaches and playing squads with good leaders come out and be able to stick together and go, let's just get this done and win this comp together and things like that. But we've also seen many times where this has gone the opposite way and clubs have just completely gone under basically in terms of not get some wins on the board and just go quickly down that slippery slide and become this team that everyone's like, "Whoa, wow! This team was supposed to be up there challenging a couple of weeks ago, and now we're talking about him into wooden spoon contentions or bottom of the table contention." So that's a very interesting balancing act. But at the same time, for Sharkies fans and for Fitzy, they need a shake-up, in my opinion, for this roster. So they do need to make some harsh calls. I think there's going to have to be at least 3 or 4 of these players get tapped on the shoulder to say, look, we just need to freshen this place up a little bit. We need to have a bit of a facelift and move on from that.
Mate, and to be honest, like they're going to be under more pressure than they're not in the next few weeks. You look at their next few games; they go down to Canberra next week, so it doesn't get Canberra obviously hurting off a couple of losses, and they're a footy team. Like Ricky's just got those boys. They were not hard done by, but that was a great game of footy against the Dogs on Thursday night. So they'll be hungry for a win. They then have to play the Wars at home. So Raiders, Wars, and then they take on the Chooks at home. So the next 3 weeks isn't a walk in the park by any means. Raiders down in Canberra. You've then got to take on an informed Wars who are probably going to be still just absolutely rolling through you in the middle. And then the Chooks who knows if we've found a bit of form by them. But that could be very much a club crisis matchup between both of those teams potentially. So, yeah, it doesn't get any easier. That's 3 games leading into the bye, Jolie. So, we could be having another chatting about the Sharks in a month, potentially winless, the way things are going.
Mate, we could be talking about the Sharkies every week.
With one win,
because
rather.
That's literally, over the next couple of weeks, they're 3 big games for them. And we're talking right now the fact that as soon as there's some pressure put onto this squad, they fold. There's going to be pressure in every single one of these games moving forward for the next 3 weeks. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do. Just finally on this game, I know we spent a little bit of time on it. Feels like there's a lot more talking points come out of it than I originally anticipated, which is fantastic. It's what we love to do and just have that pub chat vibe going about it. I just want to mention Gerard Sutton had an absolute shocker in this. I've been a huge critic of him for a while now, and I've heard some rumours amongst the ranks about favoritism and things like that, and he's quite close with some of the higher ups and the like. But seriously, if there's ever a bloke that needs to be dropped from performance basis alone, it's Gerard Sutton. And then my further question to this, I want to call out, I wrote it down because it just was getting to me that much that I wanted to bring it up on the potty tonight, and I hope people get in the comments and let me know their thoughts because it's really gotten to me. A clear wrong decision was made in this game. So a high shot from Kafusi. The ref gets it wrong, doesn't allow the captain's challenge as it was apparently past the 10 seconds, which you could actually hear in the referee's mic, Katoa saying challenge inside that period of time to start with. He wouldn't let him challenge it. But then my other part to this is part 2, where I say, hang on, we've all then had time to watch it on our own TV screens. No doubt they've got the high max bloody HD, 4K, whatever it is in the bunker. They've then seen all the replays come through. They can see it's not a high tackle. It was just a fantastic hit by Kafusi. Why can't they then go back down to the referee's ear and go, mate, nothing's happened yet. Just go back, play the ball. It's a good hit. Move on. Like, I don't get as a game where we're freaking at the moment. It's so frustrating that, and we've seen it a couple of times this week where a very good hit seems to be almost getting taken out of the game, but then on the run, we're not wanting to fix errors that the officiating is making because it's like we pick and choose. Why are we picking and choosing when we're fixing this up, Brent? Please help me out because I'm losing my freaking mind.
I don't have the answers, brother. I'm just going to keep piling on with you. Like, how we also then see instances where there's some sort of element of foul play, and I get it's foul play, but the point remains, like, and then 3 tackles later, they go back to it and give a penalty or put, like, you know, if we can do it for one thing, why can't we do it for the other? That was in the moment. As you said, everyone could see Kafusi's going off. He's like, and all Gerard's got to say is, I didn't hear it. Like, mate, that's not good enough. Go and bloody get some hearing aids then, or, like, what are you going to do? Like, because that's just not good enough. You've now cost the Finns, and as it turned out, it didn't matter in the end. But what if that happens in a bigger moment? I know the what-ifs and all that sort of stuff, but you know what I mean? It's just simply not good enough. So,
we've seen in finals series the last year or two where it has happened. So it's like people go, oh, don't talk about what ifs, but it's like it's happening in the what if moments. That's the reason why we have to talk in what ifs.
Yeah, and it just gives you no confidence, right? You just don't want your team to end up in a situation where the ref can have an impact on it because you don't know what you're going to get. You just need to make sure that, you know, you're not doing these things as hard as it is. Like, don't put yourself in the situation potentially where you're relying on a referee decision for whatever it is. And to be honest, in that Chooks game, I saw another one where Teddy ran behind a player and they all stopped, and it looked like a clear shepherd or whatever you want to call it, obstruction. They all stopped. He didn't call it, and it was play on, and they can't challenge it. Like, you can't really, like I said, rely on these refs when you need them, even though sometimes it looks blatant, because you're just going to be let down. The players have just got to make sure that they now realise these guys, like, I don't know if they would have discussions about this at training about how shit the refs are, about these guys are bloody wallies, but you just got to make sure you're in a position where you're not going to get hurt by these. As crazy as it sounds, you know, it's like, how do you avoid that? But it's just getting to that point. These blokes are just absolute bloody red hot with what they're doing. It's just like you just can't rely on it, as I said. So, yeah, tricky one. Do we actually see something come of that now that it's a blatant error, mistake, human error, whatever you want to call it? Probably not. And I think your point about why aren't we using this technology? And I think you mentioned it earlier today around forward passes as well. Like, if we're going to use it, let's get it right, especially on forward, like on a try, a forward pass of a try. If it's a blatant forward pass, let's not, like, what are we doing here? Ignoring that this thing was forward, but the rule is we can't rule on it. Like, what is going on, Joel?
But
like,
we can rule on offsides that are close. We can rule on knock-ons and things like that. But we can't rule on forward passes that lead to tries, which happened 2 or 3 times today for both teams. I'll say that it happened to both teams. It's just, honestly, I don't get it. We've got this technology. Fucking use it when we need to use it. It's there. Like, and the Sutton thing, I get he's a human errors. I get it. On face value, I even watched it and I thought, Kafusi's off here. Like, this would be a sin bin. This is not good. But the fact that we got to sit there and the bunker's sitting there doing nothing, twiddling his thumbs, supposed to be looking at this sort of stuff, can see it's an error. It's a huge momentum-changing moment for the game. You've got time. The kick hasn't even been taken. The tap hasn't been taken. Sorry, Jared, you made actually a mistake there. It's clean. Take the play the ball. Let's go tackle 2, whatever it was. Play on. Just get it right.
Can I just add, do you know what the thing's pissing me off, if I'm honest, about all this as well? Like, it's like they're never wrong. They'll never admit they're wrong. But the thing that pisses me off is when they make a call, a questionable call, they go, you can challenge it. Yeah. Like some smart ass, you know what I mean? Oh, you think it's the wrong call? It's like, well, no, we can't challenge it because it's probably a subjective call of 50-50. Even though you've probably got it wrong, the interpretation will say that there's not enough evidence to overturn it. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, there's not a good camera angle or a slow enough still of this somehow in this day and age, how we still have blurry replays is beyond me. That they're going to have to back the on-field decision because they don't have enough evidence to overturn it. Oh, challenge it if you don't think it's right. Shut up. Just get it right, you flop. Fucking, I'm going to stop. We've got to start.
Shut up.
Yeah.
I feel like we've
It's
just
like that
given the
kid in
knockout punch.
It's
We've
like
just
that.
done
It's like the
knockout.
the wingers that now aren't scared of anyone because no one's going to punch them. I know the refs have never been punchable, but they've never been able to be punched. They've always been punchable, but it just pisses me off when they're like, we'll challenge it like a little smartass in the playground or something. You know what I mean?
To be fair, most wingers these days are bigger than the front rowers. So
True.
They're probably not wanting to start him anyway. The front rowers going, please don't go me. Don't do it. Moving on, though, I think we've just given the referees a knockout blow. They've been counted out for 10 and see you later. So thanks to the League of Inches podcast who have just officially put every ref on notice and hopefully made some changes for the better from next week. The West Tigers, huge blow. I was pretty impressed with their performance on the weekend against the Bunnies. I thought that they had a really good game, but then to lose both halves towards the back end of this game, Luai, I think it's been confirmed pretty much that it's an MCL, so about 4 to 6 week march, which is a huge blow. He's the general. He's the guy that he's the energy provider. He gets it done. I've loved what I've seen with him at 5'8". And then right at the back end of the game, Dewey, who already had that strapping at the high end of his hemi, for that to go and to have speak on my own sort of knowledge on this sort of thing. I know you don't want things to be up when it comes to hemis. It's not the best. You'd rather a bit lower and the like. So this isn't good. I reckon this would be about the same as Lua, if not a little bit more. Nothing's come out officially about Dewey, but I know that they're trying to word it as if to say it was just a little bit of tightness, but he could hardly walk. That's not just tightness. There's something going on there that wasn't good to see, which I just don't like to see because the Tigers, for mine, Brent, have started the season really well. Like I think that they're showing that they could be in that fight for that sort of 8th spot this year, which is great to see. And I don't think that's unrealistic for them for the way they've started. So, and I think I'm not sure if their backup half at the moment, one of the Finu brothers, is actually, or Latuid is. I think he's still coming back from an injury, so he's not ready yet. So this could be a huge shake-up where we have, unfortunately, the likes of like Coruscant in the halves, which I hate it happening every time it happens, but it could be there. But just a bit of a blow for the Tigers.
Yeah, that hurt, didn't it? That was that ruined. I sort of mentioned it on the chats. That sort of felt like it almost ruined the end of that game because they were coming at them for sure, and I thought they were getting that ascendancy. I thought on the Bunnies was super lucky. A couple of those tries were just pretty jammy, and they got it done. Jai Gray was awesome, but yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? Like Dewey and Luai looked like they were going to be an unreal combination. It's much like the Knights, right? Like it was exciting to see what that combination was going to potentially start doing and the boys running off them and stuff like that. It's not pretty. I don't know. I think Latu had shoulder surgery in the off-season, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think he was due back for a little bit yet. He might be close, but I don't think he was. And if it means Coro goes into the halves and Madden has to come in, like it starts to look pretty different. Hope comes into hooker there. It's just not the same as having Dewey, Luai, Coro and Bula. But it doesn't get any easier next week. They take on the Wars, and how's the Wars luck fortune? They take on the Knights without 3 of their best players, and they'll now take on the Tigers, who are going to absolutely up against it with a completely new halves combination. And what a time to be having to play the Wars. So, it was a bit of a shame, and the stinger in that was they end up losing that game, even though I thought they were going to come home strong. But disappointing. I guess hopefully they can just get them back on field as soon as possible, but they then don't have reoccurring issues throughout the season because that's when this stuff really stings, these hammies, and that's the frustrating thing. They can just go at any time, and then at any point, potentially your season gets derailed again. I think Latu is going to be great once he comes back, and I was always sort of curious to how they were going to manage that Dewey-Latu combo as far as who was going to get the spot, and I think Dewey had shown enough by now to suggest it was going to be him now because he's been awesome. But he's no mug. He's a great young player. He's still not got much experience, but it's just a bit of a shame for the next few weeks now. They're probably going to be a bit of a piecemeal spine, and that'll probably hurt them elsewhere. Interesting game. I thought Whiten obviously was unreal on that right edge, and Jai Gray was obviously massive, but I think the Bunnies were pretty lucky to get away with that one in the end.
They were, and I'm just glad that this record's probably being over is probably the best thing that's happened to the Bunnies, because it lets them use their right edge a lot more, and I think their right edge is fantastic. Like the likes of Duncan, Whiten can break and run holes like the best of them. So the fact that it allows them to use these guys a lot more moving forward, really exciting times for the Rabbitohs, and that was without Campbell Gray in there as well. Like the injury toll is starting to go a little bit up again for the Bunnies, which would have a lot of their fans a bit nervous, saying, "Oh, we've seen this the last 3 or 4 years now. Please not again." But they're at least getting the win still. I don't think that was their fantastic performance, but I put a little bit of fatigue down to maybe last week's game and how big it was mentally. Obviously, the celebration and against their arch rivals, you can see some teams where it does take them a week or two to come back from those big games.
Mate, can I just say that left edge was horrible on the week. That Cody Walker, it was like they were trying too hard and they were just pushing passes. And I know Cody set one up off the boot at one point, but Cody was showing up in defence a couple of times as well. So they can't be doing that. Like, I was expecting that left edge to absolutely feast with Taruva at centre, not obviously a regular centre, and Skelton on the wing there, but it was all on the right. So yeah, they've got a. I know they got some lucky stuff happen towards the end of the game that helped them with Latrell and Fifi as well, but those boys should be doing better, I think, as well. So, and I'm sure they will, but they were bloody shocking on the weekend, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely were. In today's game, mate, for the Eels, they were awarded a controversial penalty try. What were your thoughts? Penalty try, correct decision?
Mate, I mean, we all saw it. I just thought, even I know obviously Sewer pulls him back, but he's all over him. You've also got Gutho was right there in cover and 2 as well. I think, as they said on the coverage, if he was moving quick and running the line or something, maybe, but I didn't see that. It was a big stretch. He still obviously has to catch the pass. I know that he got pulled, but there's a number of variables there that suggest that he wasn't guaranteed to score that try. So I didn't think it was. I was the one that, again, you just sort of scratch your head with how they justify some of these decisions. And you're hearing them talk it live, like, they're going to give this. Like, they're going to... And then as soon as they say it's in our opinion, they're going to give it. As soon as you hear those words, in our opinion, he would have... And it's like, well, it's going to be a try. In this day and age, Jolly, I guess the part of that was that they didn't lose a man for the next 10 minutes. The Eels obviously got the 4-pointer, and you could argue what's a bigger punishment in the modern game, losing a man for 10 minutes or conceding a 4-pointer. I don't know. Dragons would probably prefer to just concede a 4-pointer. And as I said, in the end, it probably didn't matter. But, yeah, what do you reckon?
Oh, mate, a fantastic decision. Absolutely correct call. No, honestly, I honestly get both sides of it. I'm pretty neutral when it comes to this one, actually, because I can see the fact that there is probably a little bit of variables. I think the commentators were probably talking up a little bit too much. I actually think Pezzett could have almost just fell over the line once he got that ball. He had enough momentum to get there. In my opinion, I know Gutho was around, but I just think Pezzett had a little bit had a bit of speed build up, not a heap, obviously, but enough to get that ball and to crash over the line, in my opinion. So I think that's why they probably went the penalty try route. But like I said, I can understand, and probably felt like when I was watching it, the more and more I watched the replays, felt like just clear professional foul, 10 in the bin was probably the more suitable one. And that's the one I was hoping for as a fan, because I was thinking how good it's going to have. Because it got to that stage where we started to get a little bit of ascendancy, the Eels, in that period of time. So I was looking forward to having that one player advantage for a while. So I was a bit gutted that it did go the penalty try option, and it wasn't one of the 8-point tries either. So I was like, oh, yeah, okay, I can take it, I can see it, but I would have preferred the other option personally. But hey, it is what it is. I think the bigger question to come out of this game, Brent, is the fact that the Dragons have now lost 3 games where they probably sit back and go, we should have probably been now 3-0, not 0-3. I look at it and I go, their backline work their asses off and have done so pretty much the whole 3 weeks. Really look at their stats and numbers. The forwards are doing their thing. I don't really think that the experienced ones are doing too well. I think their young ones are just coming on. I keep saying it almost every week, and they're just being so good for them. Mate, it's the halves. I feel like a broken record, and people are probably over this conversation, but like, I sit there and I just think, what does Flino need to see? I know it's his son that we're talking about. I know that he's part of the halves. I know as a father myself, it's what you don't want to bring yourself to it, but you want to be winning football games. Like his job will be under pressure if he can go if he doesn't get them up the ladder this year after last year's disappointments. His job will be under extreme pressure by the end of the year. He'll be. I'm going to assume both Peyton and Seb will probably be gone within some point this year, which then there'll be a next coach up on the ranks. And I think that may be Fleno if things don't start to fix up for him, because it's got to the point where it looks like he's just blindly and stubbornly going, this is our best halves pairing moving forward, let's go. Like Cooper Cronk was saying in the commentary, and he was absolutely spot on. They had Parramatta on the ropes left side. You just had to put Moses one-on-one with Sully, and they just continually didn't do it. There was chances over there that many times it wasn't funny, and they just kept going side to side, slowly putting balls through hands and the like. You need a halves pairing or at least a half there to ice the game. They don't have one currently.
No, and I think we started to see a little bit last year when Lockie Ilias got dropped. He was made a bit of a scapegoat, and I didn't think he was actually playing that bad. He definitely wasn't the reason they were losing. And that was when I first sort of thought, oh, what's going on here? And since then, it's like Flano has never sat Flano, obviously. So, yeah, they obviously signed Atkinson. He's a new combo there. Look, I saw some good things from Kyle over the years when, he's been at a number of clubs now. And, I mean, you even read into a bit of that, to be honest. But he's shown glimpses, but I don't think he's done enough to sort of prove that he's an undroppable NRL half by any means. They've got other options there now. Like they've got some young halves, and we talked about it, I think, just before, mate, with that Lycan King Togia, and then the young fella,
Cade Reid.
Cade Reid, absolutely, who looks every bit a football player, and that's all you want, right? Like blokes that compete and they look like they, go after everything. And I just sort of wonder, like, how do you not? If they start losing games again, how do you not start to give these young guys a crack? You can't keep just running this same combo into the ground and get no results. I also question some of their middles. I don't think, he played all right today. I think he did all right on the sheet today. Blake Laurie, guys like Kerr. Like they just don't have much class. Obviously, Colo going there is massive for him next year, and that's a next year thing. And he's going to add heaps of class to that pack. The Couchman boys are great, but they're going to miss probably both of them for at least the next week, if not more. I think Toby was a Cat 1, and Ryan will cop some weeks for that hip drop on Hopgood, which is very unfortunate. Obviously, with Hopgood now being out with an ACL for the year as a result. But yeah, I think you're spot on. I think Flano's had more than enough time there. I think he gets a little bit leeway because he has won a comp with the Sharks in terms of, I guess, trying to understand what they need to build there. He's also come out recently and said they aren't going to win a comp this year, which is interesting. Like, I thought they were really good against the Dogs. I thought they were good until some sewer brilliance against the Storm. Today, I expected them to do better, and they didn't. And they got away to a pretty good start, even despite conceding the first try. So you do have to start to question it. I don't think, as good as I think Little is as a player, I think Cookie's just been still too good to be now spelling him for Little as well. Like, I think Cookie's in good enough form. Obviously he's getting a bit older and stuff like that, and Little's also dangerous as well, but I don't know, it's just like, you look at the, Gutho's obviously not a young bloke either. Like, what are they building there? Like, who's that? Because they should be doing it. They're obviously a big club, and they've got a big following, and they've got really passionate fans and all that sort of stuff. And I'm sure none of them are going to be happy. But again, despite all the promise that we have had for them over the few weeks, they now are 0-3, and they're going to be very much up against it now for the next few weeks again. And as you said, like, people going to keep seeing Flano get rolled out at 7? I don't think, or 6 rather. Whatever it is, I don't think they're going to be too happy about it.
Won't go down well. And from what I've seen, Atkinson isn't a 7. I feel a bit harsh for him, but he's best footy, and I keep saying to these guys, but stop trying to force 5'8" to become halfbacks. They're not. 5'8" is its own position, and like we've just seen with the likes of Luai, who's gone back there after trying, and he's a rep quality player. He's a couple of levels above some of these guys. He couldn't even do it. Like, it's a special position to be in. Let it happen. And if that means you've got to drop your son for the betterment of the team, you got to do it. You've got to do it. And I remember, I'm pretty sure Flano was originally brought there, Cole that is, as that 14 sort of player. And because of injuries in that preseason, he first signed with the club, sort of pushed and forced their hand to play him in the halves, and now he's just become one of their main halves. So it's a tough one. I just feel for Dragons fans because it just looks like we've just seen this last year, and early stages are showing that we're going to be seeing it again this year. And I just think for a very proud club with a fantastic history, it's just not really good enough. And especially if it's looking like the coach is blindly sort of get at the point where he's just going, yep, these two is it moving forward. You just want to see some accountability. You just want to see someone dropped and say, no, let's get something done. We need to win this football game. They should have scored one or two more tries at least during that period of time, and to not do it and not identify what was clearly happening. Like there was times where they had 4-on-2s and stuff, and they just weren't going there. I'm going, Park footballers can see it. Park footballers would have done it. Just come on, man. But let us know, Dragons fans. I know you probably be filthy at the moment, rightly so. Let us know what you think. But that is it. That is all we've got time for tonight on the breakdown, inch by inch. Make sure you're smashing that like button, subscribe, guys, on YouTube. If you're listening on the podcast, hit that little bell icon at the top to make sure you get notifications about all the podcasts moving forward. Give us a rating as well. Goes a long way of helping the podcast reach newer audiences, which we always are striving to do. Social media platforms, make sure you smash that like, subscribe button on Facebook, Insta, TikTok. You just type in League of Inches, you will find us all there. But apart from that, Brent, that is over and out for us. Thank you. Enjoy your start of the week.
Yeah, mate. Thanks again. Always a pleasure. And I've just noticed, have you seen an episode of The Simpsons where he's like, Homer, have you been shining your head in the shine old polo again? I've got a bit of that action going. So anyone on YouTube, let me know. I might have to start wearing a hat or something. Just pick that up in the last little while.
I'll get you a League of Inches one coming out shortly. I'm just waiting on the shirt to arrive. So, which should be here in the next week or so, I've been told. So that would be nice. But anyway, that's a quick little plug there, guys. If you do want any League of Inches merch, whether it's a polo, we've got the Rocks in Your Head shirts as well, hats, stubby coolers. You can see that up there. You name it, we've got it. Hoodies. We do have those really good hoodies as well. It's starting to get into that cooler period, so it's a fantastic time to get in early, get your hoodie. Just reach out to the page, send me a message. We'll get those ordered for you and sent straight out within the next week or two. But thank you, everyone. Have a great start to your week. Love and appreciate all the support constantly, and we will speak to you again midweek. Goodbye.